And we're recording.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to this new, weird, fun web series of whatever you want to call it, called Pitch Slapped. I am Dan Stefen. This is Stephen Welch. We both came up with this idea. So before we dive in to anything, I guess maybe we should explain it a little. So I'll hand the microphone to Stefan and see if he if he has anything to say.
All right, thank you very much, Dan. I guess the best way to think of this was like in college when we had a creative writing class. We kind of our teacher had to sit in like a circle, a horseshoe, whatever you want to call it. Is that the correct shape?
Charlie. I think so, yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. We're right on schedule with the shapes. And basically, we would pitch ideas and share our ideas. And, Dan and I, are, as he stated, are both, creative people. We've collaborated on a number of projects and, continue to have a few in the making. And, perhaps down the road you'll hear about some of that as we go. But this is a kind of way to, I hope, capture some of that magic and fun that we had back in Professor Mann's creative writing class.
Yeah. I guess this we're hoping that this is a space where we can spitball ideas and maybe bring on some other people who want to talk about ideas. And I don't know. Last time we spoke, Stefan, we were like, we're gonna try to keep it a little loose. It sounded like we were gonna talk about writing. Maybe movie ideas, maybe talk about future aspirations if we ever want to get something made into a movie, like who's going to star and
Oh, yes, you are in for a treat with this. And part of the cool thing is, right, if when you forget, I had this idea, well, it'll be recorded. So, we could go back and write it. All this is trademarked, so you can't steal it. But, like Dan said, we would love to eventually have other people come on, share their idea, right? So hopefully maybe it inspires you a little bit. I believe, new videos would come out every other Wednesday?
Yeah, I think we're trying to, yeah. I think that's the goal.
That's the goal. So new videos we said Monday, either Monday or Wednesday. That hasn't been decided yet. But either way, every other week, new videos. So make sure you stay tuned, and I hope you enjoy the ride. Dan, any last second words before we stop, breaking the fourth wall here?
Let's get pitch slapped.
There it is, yes! Oh, greatest thing ever. Let's get pitch slapped. Beautiful. All right, buddy. So,
how are you feeling?
This is awesome. I'm very excited to see you and to just kind of, I guess, do what we normally do in general. But this is great. It's really good to see you. Did you want to start us off?
Well, you sounded very excited. I am intrigued. So I'm gonna have you start off. You're probably gonna come in with something hot, and I'll lower it to not a boil, but it'll simmer. So we'll end on a simmer.
A smooth.
Maybe a few bubbles, but you're gonna boil it up. So.
Oh, I guess maybe this should be a quick question. So does the episode? Are we doing episode by episode? So this episode, are we both going, or is it going to alter every week with a different person with a different idea?
Do you want to alter it? I mean, it doesn't matter. I came in with, it's not really an idea. It's the story I shared about, I just have one story and maybe a few cast ideas, so whatever you would like, Steph, this is kind of your baby. So.
Well, it's our baby. We are the parents.
Awesome. Well, I would like to say that it's your baby, and I helped. I was like a babysitter, so. Well, yeah, I don't know.
We'll go down this road and we'll see what happens.
Okay.
All right.
You go first.
So first, I want you to get comfortable. Sit back. Right now, get a little loose.
Okay. I'm loose.
All right. So this pitch Dan, the name of the story or script, whatever it could be, is called Ashes to Ashes, Dust to Dust. Now, this is just a working title. It could end up being the final title, but that's what we're rocking with right now. And this is a story set in the small town of New Hope, Pennsylvania, which is a real town, at least according to the internet. I've not been there, but the internet says it's a real town. So, we're in New Hope, Pennsylvania, and a construction crew is working on building a new addition to the school during the summer. And as they're doing, construction, something collapses, right? The ground collapses, and it uncaves a strange catacomb in the ground, right? So, as the site becomes blocked off, a local college, right, within the area, I haven't done research on what colleges are in the area of New Hope, but anyway, local college archaeology professor is sent in, right? Like, oh, catacombs in rural Pennsylvania. That doesn't necessarily add up. So they go in to try and make a sense of what's going down. So meanwhile, also in the same town, you have our next character who's, one of the main characters, right? His name is Wilson, or Will Carlisle. And he is a farmer who is losing his family farm to the bank, and he's trying to raise the money so he can keep his family's farm, right? So it doesn't go under, so it stays in the family for another couple generations. So we got him losing his farm, we got this archaeology professor coming in, and then we have the small town sheriff who's like, just trying to keep things like hustling and bustling and keeping everything peaceful and looking like it belongs on a calendar, right? So back at the construction site at the school, the cops blocked it off, as I said, from the public, but a news crew and, of course, the public, they're around the barricades. They're like, oh, this is like the craziest thing to happen in New Hope, Pennsylvania, right? So the archaeology professor goes in with some crew, and they discover a walled-up set of tombs, right? There's 1, 2, 3 of them. And they struggle to get them open, but ultimately they do, possibly with a crowbar or a hammer or something. And someone asks if they're like the pyramids, right? Like, oh, are these like the pyramids? And then the conclusion is, no, they're not Egyptian. These are made by the Dutch. And while they're in the tombs, right, so they go in each one, we see decrepit, dried out bodies, and there are claw marks, right, like people tried to get out in 2 of the tombs. In the third one of them was just like this, right, standing there looking all majestic, right? Now, someone in there, right, I'm not sure who, probably a crew member, like, touches it, right, and like nicks their finger, so then like some blood drips on them, right? So that's okay. So once
I would argue that's not okay, but continue.
it's definitely not okay. So once they pack up for the night, right, everything is closed, everyone goes about their day, like, oh, we'll come back, look at it tomorrow. Once they pack up, the moon shines, and it hits them, right, the 3 decrepit corpses. And the one that had blood on hit him, right, slowly emerges, right, and is like coming back to life, shaking the dust off, still looking all decrepit, like a creepy monster. And he leaves to go get food for his 2 compatriots who are still like mummified looking. So he notices a group of guys, right? So mind you, he's like scurrying in the shadows. He's climbing on walls like Spider-Man, right? Like a apex predator. He's on the roof looking at people, and he sees a group of guys. He's in the alleyway, or up like on a building over an alleyway, and he's watching this group of guys like walk into like a pizza parlor. And then he hears some commotion from the back. He turns around. He sees a homeless man digging through the trash trying to find food. Well, he then kills the homeless man, drags him, brings him back to his 2 vampire mummy homies, and they feed on him. And then they dip, right? They scatter out into the night. Okay, so they scatter into the night. The next day, the archaeologist and the small town sheriff notice that the tombs are empty, the people in them are missing, and then strange things ultimately begin happening, right? Farmers' cows are being slaughtered, right? Which brings in farmer Will Carlisle. His cows are slaughtered. He's like, listen, I'm trying to save my farm. I need my cows. Like, you're going to pay me for my cows. You need to investigate this and find me who did this because they owe me, right? Teens are being attacked and killed at drive-in theaters and corn mazes. So then ultimately there's like some other stuff that happens, but it becomes up to the archaeology professor, the small town sheriff, and Farmer Wilson Carlisle to defeat this bloodthirsty nightmare and save their town. And then the ending, right? So it ends with a final fight in a museum. That's where the vampires have made their lair. Bullets won't do even if they are dipped in holy water. So the archaeologist has a katana that she took from the museum. The sheriff, or the small town sheriff, has like, you know what? You have people with cleaning packs like to spray for like COVID. Like he has one of those things, but filled with holy water.
Thank you.
And what else? Oh, and then Will Carlisle has a pitchfork.
I knew it.
That he will douse in gasoline and light on fire like a torch. And then, what is it? They kill the last vampire, in a display area. And someone drops the one-liner, check out the new exhibit or stick around and enjoy the display. Probably the first one that sounds like it flows off the tongue a little simpler than it normally would. So the cast I have for this: Wilson Carlisle, the farmer, will be played by the great and talented Liam Neeson. If I had all the money in a studio that would do it. Small town sheriff Monty Stuckle will be played by Wendell Pierce. He was in the show The Wire. He played Dominic West, maybe Dominic West, I think is his name. His partner, Wendell
Pierce.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll look him up. I don't know him.
Archaeology professor Linda Moore will be played by Charlize Theron. The head vampire Aloysius will be played by Dolph Lundgren. And then Noor, right, who is one of Aloysius's vampire brides, will be played by Christiana Loken, which she was the female Terminator for Terminator 3. And then Ruse, R-O-O-S, his other vampire bride, will be played by Natasha Henstridge, who is the girl from the Species films. In a perfect
I recognize some of those names, but that's awesome.
Look around for
Forgive me, my dog needs to jump off my bed so I'll be right back to discuss that, but that was awesome.
No problem, buddy.
All right. You have to go out. You gotta go out. What you gonna do?
I keep forgetting that I have too many sticks. Alright, let's just keep going.
Thank you.
No
I thought
problem.
my dog had to go out too. So, my first question is, like, how did you come up with this concept? Did you have this in your back pocket, or was this something that you literally created within the past couple weeks? Because, like, I've not heard of this before. This is the first time I'm hearing this concept.
This is an idea I've had for a while. Obviously thinking about like this thing, right? It's like, okay, cool. I gotta go back and look at some of my notes and maybe flesh out some ideas. So this idea we had, gave me that opportunity. But this is an idea that, like you said, been in my pocket. And I imagine it takes place in like the 80s. You know what I mean? Like like that's the kind of flavor. Like think like the Lost Boys
Oh God, where are you
meets
over here?
the Goonies meets like the movie.
We already found the Aborigines.
I want to say like The
Hole.
Descent, like
Mhm.
that Neil.
Go this way because there's a river. And you
I
can
can't
use
believe
the
I
river
forget
as a
his
natural
name.
barrier to get
But
away.
anyway, he directed Descent and the most recent Hellboy movie. Neil Marshall, that's it.
Mhm.
Yeah, like so those three were big inspirations. Also like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the movie. Not that
Oh.
I haven't seen the show, but the 80s
Guys,
Flair
I
and hair
grabbed
one,
my
that one.
character didn't know about
Yeah. I see all of that in there. When I listened to it, it sounded a little bit to me like the Goonies, definitely at the beginning.
There it is.
Then when they find the tombs, it sounded like the Mummy to me. And also it sounded a little bit like Stranger Things. I don't know if it's because you had like a sheriff in there, but I was like, it feels like a little bit like Stranger Things. So, yeah, but I definitely see those inspirations in there as well. That's really cool. And I thought it was cool how you kind of like merged the Mummy and like the vampire as monsters into like, together in that. That was really inventive. So that's really cool. That's
Thanks,
really
buddy.
cool.
So like I eventually this is something I know I gotta work out a little bit more, right? Like yeah, obviously I like the end and I like the beginning, but like the middle I think is what I'm having kind of an issue with.
Right. But that tends to be like one of the harder things to do. You have the premise, you write that out at the beginning, you have an idea of how it ends, but it's always the middle that's always usually harder to write. So I totally get that, but it's a solid concept. I have a question though, like how did you come up with the characters? Like what made you think like, a farmer, an archaeologist, and then a sheriff, like as the dynamic trio in the trio of the vampires?
I feel like okay, so the vampires, right? Like have you seen the show Being Human at all?
I don't believe I have.
It was there's an English version, and then the Sci-Fi Channel made a remake of it. This was like maybe 5 or 6 years ago now. But anyway, my brother and my dad and we would watch it, and they had this idea of Dutch vampires. And I was like, that seems kind of cool, they're kind of set in their ways and their tradition. And while Dolph Lundgren isn't necessarily like a Dutch fella, he definitely like is ragged. He's definitely been beat up. He's not a pretty looking guy, right? At least not now. You know what I mean? So
let's not give him some credit. He's a fine looking person.
Well,
I know what you mean.
Yeah,
though. Yeah, I'm kidding.
He's ruggedly handsome. And then like the Dutch being the Dutch, they're like blonde and white. So it's like, okay, you got Dolph Lundgren, who ideally is like at the time in the 80s was the perfect specimen of blonde and white, and then you surround him with the female Terminator and the girl from Species, those were both big films for the time. And like in the film Van Helsing, you had Dracula, right, was the main vampire. Then you had his 3 brides, right? So this time we have the one vampire and, his 2 brides, right? And then as far as like an archaeologist, it's like, like I like Indiana Jones, right? And like, wouldn't it be cool to see what if Indiana Jones like was bored, like was in a town where nothing happened? It's like, okay, I went to school. What am I doing, here in Pennsylvania of all places? And then, like you said, Stranger Things, like, I like the idea of a small town sheriff dealing with, like, bigger things. And Wendell Pierce, has had, I think, a very good career. I don't think he necessarily has got the notoriety that he deserves for his talents. I also am not sure if that like crazy fame and fortune is what any of these guys are looking for, but I do think Wendell Pierce is an underrated actor in the game. I would also say Jeffrey Wright would be pretty cool as a small town sheriff, but I really think Wendell Pierce would do a good job. And then Liam Neeson. I've been watching a lot of Liam Neeson during the pandemic. I also watched his new movie, Honest Thief.
Oh God.
I would not recommend that one. So it's like, you know what? Well, I want to give him something he could sink his teeth into. And I think, you know,
I think I can take.
if anyone's going to fight vampires and be cool doing it, Liam Neeson.
Liam Neeson.
Like, who's going to make a pitchfork on fire look cool as hell?
I'll eat your trees.
Liam Neeson.
Liam Neeson, right? Like, if you pick Nicolas Cage, it's like, that's just Wednesday. You know, that's just how he cooks hot dogs.
Right. Yeah,
You know?
I see it.
But I think you bring up a cool idea, you know, like how they have this interesting triangle, right? So I feel like they could play off each other well. I didn't even think about, like, the interconnectivity of how their relationship grows throughout the story.
No, I just thought it was an interesting choice of like characters. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's definitely, if you develop it, that's something you can explore. But you know, I just thought it was cool.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Damon, man.
Yeah. Setting wise, New Hope, Pennsylvania. Is that?
That's why.
Yeah. So give me a little bit of context for the setting. Like, why Pennsylvania? Why New Hope? Why a school? You know, and then why like a museum at the end? I mean, like it's fitting, you know. But I want to learn more about like how you got there.
No, totally. Excellent. Good questions all the way around. So the first, New Hope, right? So I didn't want to make up a town because I'm not that creative. And I looked on a map, right? Well, first things first, if I made them Dutch vampires, they had to actually be somewhere where the Dutch settled, at least in my head. So the Dutch have settled in Pennsylvania, especially rural Pennsylvania. So I looked up small town in Pennsylvania, and there were a couple, but I picked New Hope because it has that kind of thing where it's like they say they have like this downtown, right? Like it's kind of like Northampton, where like there are a lot of shops, people go, they window shop, they walk around, it's lively. So it's like, okay, this is like a happening little small town, you know, where for the most part, I'm guessing things run pretty smoothly, right? There's not a lot of disruption. And it's just like, well, what if vampires attacked it? You know? And I feel like there's a lot of opportunity there music-wise, right? Like, you could show people the various sneakers people are wearing as they walk across the street to some tune, and then it can cut to, like, vampires hunting them, right? Or something like that. And then a school, right? So I figured... Well, I don't know why a school. I just figured during the summer they're always trying to ideally improve schools because there are no kids in there, right? So they can build. Also in Pennsylvania, before I thought of New Hope, I was like, what are they honestly going to build in Pennsylvania? And schools seem like the only thing that they would possibly add on to if there are like more kids coming or something like that. And then you asked a museum. Now, when I was younger, my grandmother would take me, my cousins, and Sam to the local museums. And unfortunately, museums, except the ones in New York apparently, don't necessarily get as much love as they probably deserve. So, especially in the summertime, right? If you're a young man, young woman, your first thought isn't, let me go to the museum. So it's kind of far off to the side. It's probably dimly lit in some cases, and no one's really utilizing it, and it's not heavily guarded, right? So people could just kind of sneak in there. So it's like, okay, cool. If they sneak in the museum, also I think it adds levels, right? So your people are starting in a maze in a way, and like they have to work their way up to get to the big bad, or work their way down, or something like that.
Yeah.
Also in like the thing with the katana, right? Like it's an excuse like, oh, where'd she get that weapon? Well, she could just pull it off the wall or something.
Yeah.
You know? But I think it'd be cool. It plays some like jump scares, like, oh, what's around this corner? It's just a stuffed monkey or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so yeah, I think there's a lot of fun to be had in certain aspects. Like when we worked on the that idea of Lady Die Hard, which turned into In the Stacks, right? It's Die Hard, but in a library, right?
Mhm.
So it's like it brings action, but to a museum. Like the only movies I've seen with museum as the main setting is Night at the Museum 1 through 3, and this movie called The Relic, which was in Chicago.
Mhm.
So I feel like there's
Yeah.
just a lot of potential to be played with there.
Yeah, I love the setting, you know. Circling back to the school, that part reminds me of Buffy. I don't know if that's how the movie plays out, but that's how the television show plays out. Like there's something lurking underneath the school, you know, like the mouth of hell. And then, you know, the museum, you know, I think it just seems like a fun place to have like the final epic battle. So I really enjoyed listening to that, you know, so that's awesome stuff.
No, man, thank you very much. Now, let me ask you a question, not to flip the script, and I don't
Yeah.
mean to put you on the spot, but like if hearing like everything I've just shared with you, what's something you think maybe you know, you would add to it, right? Like into the story, like you would weave into it and be like, you know what, I think this may help it.
Yeah. So I think you were on the right track when you were talking about like the dynamics between your trio. Like maybe, I don't know, there's some kind of like conflict that, you know, they could have. I don't know. Trying to think of like something that an archaeologist, a farmer, and a sheriff would have a conflict over, like internal or external.
I would like 100 lives. Maybe I'm.
Come back to me, Steph. Maybe another day.
Yeah,
Come back
no,
to me.
no.
But I think you were on the right track though. Like maybe that's where the middle, you can like work. Maybe there's some detective styled work, and they all have like different approaches to it, and you know I'm sure they all bring certain strengths, you know, to the table, like figuring out where these vampires are, what's going on, you know. So yeah, I think that sounds good. And you have really cool names for the vampires, and I kind of want to learn more about the vampires.
Oh, I got you. Okay, so literally I typed in Dutch names on the internet, and like so you're talking about Aloysius, Noor, and Ruse.
Yeah.
They just seem like, well, Noor and Ruse kind of just seem like, all right, cool, Noor, Ruse, they're simple, right? You don't got Aloysius, just is like, yeah, we've seen Dracula, we've seen Dracula, Nosferatu. I'm trying to think of the dudes from Underworld. I don't remember their names, but Michael, and then there's like a couple other ones. But either way, and so it's just like, what's a different name than Dracula? You know. So the way I see it, their background story, they came over here, right? What did they do? Okay, so Aloysius, I guess I haven't really thought about their backstory too much. The way I see it is, all three of them were lovers, something like that, and then Aloysius did some like shady, not cool, like blood ritual type stuff, and then one of the girls, right, was like some rich dude's daughter, and he like lured her into this like, you know, threesome, right? And I mean threesome not in like you know, doing it, but like it to be one of his brides, right? So then the land guy, the rich land baron, was like, come back to me. His daughter refused to, so then he's like, okay, well, if this is how you choose to live your life, then you won't have any life at all. And then locks her away. Aloysius tried to stop it, and then he locks all of them away together. Something like that.
You know, I haven't really thought of a backstory, but here's a backstory. Like, That was awesome. No, that's really cool, and I would love if you adapt this, or you flesh this out. I would love you to throw that in there somewhere. It's really cool. Not that I think it's like necessary for the story, but I just think it's really cool. So.
No, thank you very much, Dan the Man. I appreciate that, bro.
And if you came up with that on the spot, Stefan, I don't know. I can't do that.
No, I have pages of notes, Dan. I have pages of notes.
Okay, so you were just like weaving your notes together. I get you.
Yeah, no, man. I gotta write it down.
Yeah,
I gotta write it down. Let me ask you a question. What are your thoughts of Pierce Brosnan as a vampire? Because that's like another choice. I was like, yeah, man, Pierce Brosnan as a vampire.
Yeah, I could see it. Like how old Pierce Brosnan?
Ooh.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't think like today, like he would necessarily like fit the bill, but like definitely in his Bond days, I could see it.
Like GoldenEye, Pierce Brosnan? Yeah. I could see that.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, no, so that's so far, that's ashes to ashes, dust to dust. All right, man, well, look, I appreciate you listening to my story. And, like, if you have, like you said, come back to you in, possibly in the future. I know that's a lot to be like, hey, so what are you, what would you add or something? But I like that idea you had about, like, interconnecting their dynamic, right? Like you said, maybe they all come at the crimes differently, right? And somehow they got to use their skills together. I really think that could be pretty cool. I feel like the archaeologist and the farmer will bump heads, right? Because one's kind of old school, one's new school,
mm-hmm.
and then the sheriff there is kind of like in the middle. So that'll be a lot of fun. But so again, I appreciate your thoughts, and I look forward. I will be troubling you, believe me, about some ideas as this story possibly gets developed.
Thanks for sharing, Steph. I had a lot of fun. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, man, this is wicked cool. I'm so glad that we decided to do this.
Yeah, on our inaugural episode of Pit Slapped.
Pit Slapped. Oh God, that's good. All right, gang. Thank you for watching, and leave a comment, leave a like if you want. Hopefully, it's inspired you in some way, and you've just been pitch slapped. We will see you next time.